I sit in the sterile conference room staring at the new VP's manicured nails tapping against mahogany. The words, terminated, effective immediately, still echo. 5 years of 60-hour weeks of revolutionizing their supply chain, of building the logistics system that saved the company millions gone. The VP barely glances up from her designer portfolio. Hand over the logistics system, all of it. My heart pounds, but my voice stays steady. I cannot do that. The VP's eyebrow arches. Excuse me? I smile calmly. It's not yours to own. 3 hours earlier, I had walked into Meridian Industries feeling optimistic about the quarterly review meeting. After 5 years as senior logistics coordinator, I knew my work spoke for itself. The Meridian optimization protocol I'd developed had transformed our company from struggling mid-size manufacturer to regional powerhouse. Our efficiency had jumped 43%, saving $2.7 million annually. I remember my first day here, fresh out of Ohio State, with a degree in supply chain management and stars in my eyes. The warehouse was chaotic, shipments, constantly delayed customers, furious. Thomas Hartwell, our CEO, had hired me with desperation in his voice. Fix this, Aaron, or we're finished. Those early months were brutal. 18-hour days mapping supplier networks, analyzing delivery patterns, identifying bottlenecks. I spent weekends in my tiny apartment coding algorithms on my personal laptop, building the foundation of what would become a mop. My mentor, Carmen Walsh, guided me through those challenging times, teaching me to see logistics as art rather than mere numbers. Carmen had left 6 months ago under mysterious circumstances. One day she was there, the next, her office was empty. HR claimed budget cuts, but something felt wrong. Carmen had built relationships with suppliers that took decades to cultivate. Her departure made no business sense. Madison Sterling arrived as our new VP 3 months later. Polished, confident, armed with an MBA from Wharton and recommendations from previous positions. She immediately began what she called strategic optimization reviews, which translated to questioning every process I'd established. Aaron, Madison would say during our weekly meetings, I need complete documentation of your system architecture for compliance purposes naturally. Her smile never reached her eyes. Jake Morrison from IT had become my closest friend at work. A quiet guy with incredible technical skills, he noticed things others missed. Last week, he'd pulled me aside near the coffee machine. Something strange is happening with your file access logs, he whispered. Someone's been copying data from your secure folders after hours. The timestamps show activity when you're not even in the building. The pieces clicked into place as I sat in that conference room. Madison's probing questions, her requests for system documentation, her interest in my supplier relationships. This termination wasn't about performance. It was theft. Nancy from HR fidgeted uncomfortably as Madison delivered the termination speech. Due to restructuring and changing operational needs, we're eliminating your position effective immediately. What about the Anderson manufacturing contract? I asked. I'm supposed to present the new shipping schedule tomorrow. Madison's lips curved into what might have been a smile. I'll handle that personally. Security guard Frank Miller stood outside the conference room, avoiding eye contact. We'd chatted countless times about his daughter's college plans. Now he looked mortified at having to escort me out. As Madison demanded access to my logistics system, my phone buzzed. Jake's text made my blood run cold. She's been accessing your files remotely for weeks, copied everything to external drives. I have proof. The room suddenly felt smaller, the air thicker. 5 years of innovation, relationships, and strategic thinking reduced to data on Madison's laptop. But she'd made one critical mistake. The Meridian optimization protocol wasn't just neatware or spreadsheets. It was architecture I'd built with safeguards she couldn't imagine. I created that system on my own time using my own equipment and research, I said clearly. It's intellectual property protected under my employment agreement. Madison's confidence flickered. Company policy states all work-related innovations belong to Meridian Industries. Then you should have read the patent applications I filed last year. I stood, gathering my dignity like armor. Good luck running logistics without understanding the system you're trying to steal. The drive home felt surreal. My Honda Civic's radio played classic rock while my career imploded. Colleagues were already texting condolences mixed with confusion. How could they fire you? This doesn't make sense. What about the Morrison contract? My apartment welcomed me with familiar chaos. Technical manuals stacked on coffee tables, whiteboards covered in supply chain diagrams, 3 computer monitors displaying real-time shipping data I monitored even off hours. This was where a mop truly lived in the nights and weekends I'd spent perfecting algorithms that Madison now wanted to claim. The doorbell rang at 7 p.m. Carmen Walsh stood on my threshold looking older than her 52 years, stress etched in lines around her eyes. I heard what happened, she said, settling onto my couch with practiced familiarity. Same playbook she used on me. Carmen's story chilled me. Madison had arrived at Carmen's previous company, Bennett Distribution, as operations director. Within 6 months, Carmen found herself targeted for performance issues that had never existed. Suddenly, her supplier relationships were unprofessional. Her cost-saving initiatives were outdated. Her mentorship of younger employees was favoritism. They pushed me out with negative performance reviews, Carmen explained. Madison swooped in, claimed credit for processes I developed over 20 years. 6 months later, Bennett's logistics operation was more efficient than ever, according to Madison's presentation to the board anyway. We spent the next 3 hours researching Madison's background. Her LinkedIn profile gleamed with corporate achievements, but the timeline raised questions. Companies where she'd implemented revolutionary logistics improvements consistently showed these innovations appearing shortly after longtime employees departed under the unclear circumstances. The breakthrough came when Carmen found SEC filings. Titan Logistics, Meridian's biggest competitor, had hired Meridian Industries VP Madison Sterling as strategic consultant 3 months ago. The same month, she'd started requesting detailed documentation of my system. She's working for them while employed here, I breathed. Corporate espionage. Jake called at midnight with more devastating news. I've been monitoring the network since our conversation. Madison scheduled an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. She's planning to present your system as her own innovation and request additional funding for logistics modernization. My hands shook as the scope of Madison's betrayal crystallized. She hadn't just stolen my work. She'd orchestrated my removal to prevent interference with her presentation. Meanwhile, Titan Logistics would receive detailed intelligence about Meridian's operations, client relationships, and competitive advantages. I pulled out the legal documents I'd carefully prepared when creating MMOP. Patent applications, timestamped development notes, witness statements from colleagues who'd seen me building the system. Everything documented my intellectual property ownership. But legal battles took years. Madison would present my work tomorrow, potentially securing millions in additional funding while I fought from outside. She'd calculated correctly that immediate possession mattered more than eventual legal victory. That's when Carmen suggested the nuclear option. Eleanor Whitfield, she said quietly. Thomas's sister, major shareholder board member with real influence. She's been concerned about Madison's rapid changes. I maintained a friendship with Eleanor after leaving Bennett. She might listen. Eleanor answered her phone on the second ring despite the late hour. Carmen explained the situation while I listened to muffled responses. The conversation lasted 20 minutes, growing more animated as Eleanor grasped the implications. She wants to meet you tomorrow morning, Carmen said after hanging up, before Madison's presentation. Eleanor suspected something was wrong but needed concrete evidence. As Carmen left, my phone buzzed with a text from David Rodriguez, our warehouse supervisor. Heard about today. This is wrong. Madison's been asking weird questions about how you built the system. We've got your back. I stared at my reflection in the darkened window. 24 hours ago, I'd been Meridian's logistics expert. Now I was unemployed, fighting corporate theft, preparing for war against someone who'd systematically dismantled my career. But Madison had underestimated something crucial. The Meridian Optimization Protocol wasn't just code and data, it was relationships with suppliers who trusted me personally, algorithms requiring my biometric authentication for major changes, and kill switches I'd embedded for exactly this scenario. Tomorrow's battle would determine whether integrity could triumph over sophisticated corporate theft. The stakes couldn't be higher. Eleanor Whitfield's office overlooked downtown Columbus from the 32nd floor of First National Bank building. At 68, Thomas's sister radiated the quiet authority of someone who'd spent decades navigating corporate boardrooms. Her handshake was firm, her gray eyes sharp with intelligence. Carmen's explains the situation, Eleanor said without preamble. Show me your evidence. I spread documents across her mahogany conference table. Patent applications time-stamped 18 months ago, development notes from my personal computer, witness statements from Jake David and 3 warehouse workers who'd watched me building a mop during lunch breaks and after hours. Eleanor studied each page carefully. Madison's presentation is in 2 hours. She claims this system represents her strategic vision for modernizing Meridian's operations. She can't even explain how the algorithms work, I replied. The core optimization engine requires my biometric authentication for major modifications. She's locked out of the most critical functions. Eleanor's eyebrow arched. Biometric authentication, fingerprint, and retinal scan. I built it as security against unauthorized changes. Only I can modify supplier relationships, cost matrices, or delivery scheduling parameters. Meaning Madison's stolen data but can't actually operate your system. She has read-only access to reports and surface functions. The engine itself remains protected. Eleanor leaned back, processing implications. What happens if she tries to bypass your security? Automatic shutdown. The system interprets forced access as potential security breach and locks down all operations until authorized personnel restore functionality. Jake's text confirmed my suspicions. Madison had spent the previous night hiring outside consultants to reverse engineer MOP's architecture. Their attempts to break encryption had triggered multiple security alerts. She's desperate, I told Eleanor. Tomorrow's presentation is her only chance to claim ownership before the board realizes she can't actually operate what she's stolen. Eleanor's phone buzzed with updates from other board members. 2 major clients had called expressing concerns about delayed shipments. The Morrison Steel contract worth $12 million annually was wavering due to delivery inconsistencies that started appearing after my termination. Madison assured us yesterday that logistics operations would improve without what she called outdated resistance to change, Eleanor said grimly. Apparently, the opposite is happening. David called while we strategized. The warehouse is chaos, he reported. Madison issued new shipping schedules that conflict with supplier delivery windows. We've got 43 orders backed up with no clear resolution path. The situation was deteriorating faster than anticipated. Madison's theft had backfired because she'd fundamentally misunderstood MOPI's complexity. She'd stolen data without comprehending the relationship's protocols and human elements that made the system function. Eleanor made her decision. I'm calling an emergency board session for this afternoon. After Madison's presentation, you'll have opportunity to present your evidence and explain why our logistics operations are failing. What about Thomas? I asked. Thomas Hartwell was traveling in Southeast Asia, establishing new supplier relationships. Unreachable until Friday. This decision falls to the board's emergency powers. Eleanor's expression hardened. Madison's counting on Thomas's absence. She probably timed this presentation deliberately. Carmen arrived with additional intelligence. Her contacts at Bennett Distribution revealed Madison's pattern. She'd identify key intellectual property creators, orchestrate their departure, claim ownership of their innovations, then leverage those claims for rapid promotions or consulting contracts. 3 companies in 5 years, Carmen reported. Always the same playbook, always targeting systems that couldn't easily be replicated without insider knowledge. But Madison had made a critical error with MOP. Unlike previous targets, my system included built-in protections she couldn't overcome. Her theft would expose itself the moment she tried to demonstrate functionality. Jake's monitoring revealed increasingly frantic activity on Madison's part. She'd contacted 4 different cybersecurity firms seeking emergency system recovery services. Her emails referenced corrupted authentication protocols and urgent need for administrative access restoration. She knows she's trapped, Jake concluded. The presentation will expose her theft if she can't demonstrate actual system control. Eleanor's assistant confirmed the afternoon emergency session. 5 board members would attend in person, 2 via video conference. Madison's morning presentation would proceed as scheduled, followed by my opportunity to address the board. "What's your strategy?" Eleanor asked. "Simple," I replied. "Let Madison dig her own grave. She'll promise functionality she can't deliver, claim expertise she doesn't possess." When board members ask for demonstrations, her house of cards collapses. Carmen smiled grimly. "You're going to let her present stolen work she can't actually use." "Exactly. She'll commit to deliverables impossible without my cooperation." When the board asks why logistics operations are failing despite her innovative system, she'll have no credible explanation. Eleanor nodded approvingly. Rope to hang herself. The morning's events would determine whether sophisticated corporate theft could triumph over legitimate innovation. Madison had stolen my data, but she'd fundamentally misunderstood that MOP's power lay not in information, but in relationships, understanding, and security protocols she couldn't replicate. Her presentation would become her confession. Madison's presentation began promptly at 9 a.m. in Meridian's main conference room. Through Eleanor's connections, I watched via a secure video feed from a nearby office building. Madison stood confidently before the board, her PowerPoint displaying screenshots from my stolen system documentation. Meridian's logistics optimization represents cutting-edge strategic thinking, Madison declared, gesturing toward charts I'd created during countless late-night coding sessions. This integrated platform increases efficiency by 43% while reducing operational costs by $2.7 million annually. Board member Patricia Collins leaned forward. "This is impressive work. When did you develop these algorithms?" Madison's smile didn't waver. "I've been refining these concepts throughout my career. The current implementation represents my vision for modern supply chain management." She clicked through slides detailing supplier relationships I'd cultivated over 5 years. My algorithms were presented as her innovations, my cost-saving initiatives rebranded as her strategic insights. The former logistics coordinator was resistant to necessary modernization, Madison continued. Her departure allows us to fully implement advanced optimization protocols. That's when the first crack appeared in Madison's facade. Board member Robert Chen asked, "Can you demonstrate the system's predictive scheduling function? Our Anderson manufacturing contract depends on accurate delivery forecasting." Madison's fingers froze over her laptop. "The demonstration requires specific network access currently being updated." "Updated by whom?" Chen pressed. "Didn't we terminate our logistics staff yesterday?" Madison's composed mask slipped momentarily. "External consultants are handling the technical transition." Meanwhile, Jake's monitoring revealed the truth. MOP's security protocols had detected Madison's presentation activities as potential data theft. The system automatically restricted access to core functions, displaying read-only reports while blocking operational controls. Eleanor texted updates from the boardroom. Madison can't demonstrate basic functionality, making excuses about temporary technical issues. The presentation concluded with Madison requesting $200,000 for system enhancement and consultant fees. She promised full operational capability within 30 days. 20 minutes later, crisis struck. David called from the warehouse floor, barely controlling his panic. "The entire system just crashed. All shipping schedules gone, supplier interfaces down, delivery tracking completely offline. We've got 200 orders in limbo and no way to process them." Madison's attempts to bypass my security protocols had triggered MOP's ultimate safeguard. Detecting unauthorized administrative access, the system initiated complete shutdown to prevent data corruption. The board meeting erupted as reports flooded in. Anderson, Manufacturing, called threatening contract cancellation. Morrison Steel demanded immediate explanation for delayed deliveries. Three smaller clients expressed concerns about Meridian's operational reliability. Madison tried controlling the narrative. This temporary disruption proves the old system was unstable. My modernization timeline accounts for these transition challenges. But Eleanor had prepared the board for my afternoon presentation. Perhaps we should hear from the person who actually built this system. That won't be necessary, Madison replied quickly. I have comprehensive understanding of all operational requirements. Robert Chen's expression darkened. Then fix it. Our clients are threatening to cancel contracts worth millions. Madison's confident facade cracked completely. The external consultants need additional time to resolve compatibility issues. What consultants? Patricia Collins demanded. Who authorized outside access to our proprietary systems? Eleanor struck. I think we need to examine how this situation developed, beginning with who actually created these algorithms. By noon, trade publications had picked up the story. Manufacturing Weekly reported, Meridian Industries faces logistics crisis following personnel changes. The article quoted anonymous sources suggesting internal conflicts over system ownership. Madison's response was swift and desperate. Her attorney sent a cease and desist letter demanding I immediately restore system functionality and cease interference with Meridian's operations. The letter threatened criminal charges for computer fraud and corporate sabotage. Jake's digital forensics told a different story. His analysis of server logs showed Madison's team had attempted to delete authentication protocols, copy encrypted databases, and install backdoor access tools. Every action triggered security responses that ultimately crashed the system. She's trying to cover her tracks, Jake explained during our emergency meeting. But the evidence is overwhelming. Unauthorized access attempts, data copying communication with external consultants who lack proper security clearance. Carmen had uncovered the most damning evidence. Madison's contract with Titan Logistics specifically mentioned acquiring competitive intelligence regarding Meridian's logistics operations and client relationships. The consulting fee was contingent on delivering actionable strategic information. Eleanor called at 3 p.m. Emergency board session starts in 1 hour. Madison's claiming you've sabotaged our systems out of spite. She wants you prosecuted for computer crimes. What's the board's mood? I asked. Furious, but not necessarily at you. They're realizing Madison can't deliver what she promised. Client complaints are mounting and she has no solutions. Patricia Collins had pressed Madison for technical explanations during lunch. Madison's responses revealed fundamental misunderstanding of supply chain optimization principles. She couldn't explain algorithmic logic supplier relationship protocols or cost calculation methodologies. She's memorized talking points, Eleanor reported, but she doesn't understand the underlying system architecture. David's warehouse team was ready to testify about Madison's impossible demands. She'd ordered shipping schedules that conflicted with supplier delivery windows, insisted on cost calculations that ignored transportation variables, and demanded client relationship changes that violated contractual agreements. She doesn't understand how any of this actually works, David concluded. She's got data, but no comprehension. The afternoon presentation would determine whether truth could triumph over sophisticated deception. Madison had committed corporate theft, damaged client relationships, and blamed her victims for consequences of her actions. But evidence was mounting that would expose every aspect of her scheme. The boardroom fell silent as I entered for the afternoon emergency session. Madison sat rigidly at the far end, flanked by an attorney and a consultant from the cybersecurity firm she'd hired. Her earlier confidence had evaporated, replaced by barely controlled tension. Thomas Hartwell's chair remained empty. Our CEO was still unreachable in Malaysia, leaving Eleanor to manage the crisis. 5 board members attended in person with 2 others connected via video conference. Aaron, Eleanor began formally. Please explain your role in developing Meridian's logistics optimization system. I placed my documentation on the conference table. Patent applications filed 14 months ago. Development notes time-stamped on my personal computer. Witness statements from colleagues who'd watched me build MOP during evenings and weekends. I created the Meridian Optimization Protocol beginning in my second year here, I explained. The system was developed on my own time using my personal equipment based on research I conducted independently. Madison's attorney interrupted. Ms. Connor's employment agreement clearly states that work-related innovations belong to Meridian Industries. That's correct, I replied. However, I filed provisional patents before implementing MOP in Meridian's operations. The intellectual property was legally protected before company adoption. Board member Robert Chen examined my patent documentation. These applications predate your system's implementation by 8 months. I wanted to protect my work while ensuring Meridian could benefit from its use. The licensing agreement I proposed would have allowed company usage while maintaining my ownership rights. Madison spoke for the first time since my arrival. This is exactly the kind of obstruction we face when dealing with outdated thinking. Modern corporations require integrated systems without artificial ownership barriers. Patricia Collins turned toward Madison. Speaking of integration, why is our logistics system completely non-functional? Madison's composure cracked slightly. Temporary technical difficulties during the transition process. Transition to what? Collins pressed. You terminated our logistics expert, claimed ownership of her system, and now we can't process basic shipping orders. The external consultants are resolving compatibility issues, Madison replied weakly. Jake's evidence package arrived at that moment. Eleanor distributed printed reports showing Madison's unauthorized access patterns, data copying activities, and communication with Titan Logistics. These server logs document systematic theft of proprietary information, I explained. Beginning 3 weeks after Ms. Sterling's arrival, someone began copying files from secure directories. The access patterns match her login credentials. Madison's attorney studied the documents. This could represent routine administrative review of operational systems. At 3 a.m. on weekends, Eleanor asked pointedly, copying encrypted databases to external drives. Carmen entered with additional evidence. Board members, I present Madison Sterling's consulting contract with Titan Logistics, our primary competitor. The boardroom erupted as Carmen distributed copies of the agreement. Madison's role was explicitly described as strategic intelligence gathering regarding Meridian's operational capabilities, client relationships, and proprietary systems. Madison finally spoke, her voice strained. This consulting arrangement was disclosed to appropriate personnel and represents legitimate industry analysis. When was this disclosed? Robert Chen demanded. Your employment contract prohibits consulting for competitors. Legal review determined the activities were permissible under existing guidelines. Eleanor's expression hardened. Which legal review? I've seen no documentation of approval for competitor consulting. The revelation shifted the board's entire perspective. Madison wasn't just claiming credit for my work. She was systematically gathering intelligence for Titan Logistics while drawing her Meridian salary. Patricia Collins asked the critical question, can you restore our logistics system to operational status? Madison's silence stretched uncomfortably. Finally, she replied, the technical transition requires additional time and resources. How much time? Collins pressed. Potentially several weeks depending on resolution of authentication conflicts. Authentication conflicts? I interjected. You mean the security protocols that prevent unauthorized system modifications? Madison's facade finally collapsed. Yes, there are access restrictions that complicate the transition process. Robert Chen leaned forward. Are you saying you can't actually operate the system you've claimed as your innovation? The system requires specific technical knowledge that was concentrated in limited personnel, Madison admitted. Personnel you terminated yesterday, Collins observed dryly. Eleanor seized the moment. Erin, can you restore system functionality? Absolutely, with appropriate legal protections ensuring my intellectual property rights are respected. How quickly? Chen asked. Full operational status within 4 hours. I built the system to be resilient, not vulnerable. Madison's attorney whispered urgently in her ear. She straightened, attempting to regain control. Any restoration must acknowledge company ownership of all operational systems. That's impossible, I replied calmly. I own the patents. Meridian can license the technology, but ownership isn't negotiable. The board members exchanged glances. Their choice was clear. Accept my licensing terms or face weeks of logistics chaos while Madison's consultants struggled with systems they couldn't understand. Thomas's absence had created this crisis. His return tomorrow would find either a resolved situation or a company hemorrhaging clients due to operational paralysis. Eleanor called for recess to allow board consultation. As members huddled privately, Madison stared at her laptop screen, reality finally penetrating her calculated scheme. She'd stolen data without comprehending its complexity, claimed expertise she didn't possess, and exposed her corporate espionage when crisis demanded competence she couldn't provide. The tables had turned completely. The board reconvened after 30 minutes of heated private discussion. Eleanor's expression was grim as she addressed Madison directly. Based on evidence presented today, the board votes to terminate your employment for cause effective immediately. Madison's face went white. This is unjustified retaliation based on unfounded accusations. Unfounded, Patricia Collins held up the Titan Logistics contract. You've been consulting for our primary competitor while drawing full salary from Meridian. That's not accusation, it's documented fact. Robert Chen added, your inability to operate the system you claimed as your innovation demonstrates either incompetence or deception. Neither is acceptable. Madison's attorney attempted damage control. My client requests opportunity to address these concerns and restore operational capability. Too late, Eleanor replied firmly. We have clients threatening contract cancellations worth millions. This board cannot afford additional delays while Ms. Sterling learns systems she should already understand. Security arrived to escort Madison from the building. The same guard, Frank Miller, who'd reluctantly walked me out yesterday, now approached Madison with professional detachment. You have 30 minutes to collect personal belongings, Eleanor announced. All company property, including laptops, files, and access credentials, must be surrendered immediately. Madison's departure was swift, but not quiet. She stopped at my chair, voice low but audible to the entire room. You haven't won anything. Legal battles take years, cost fortunes. This company will be bankrupt before you see justice. I met her gaze calmly. Maybe, but I'd rather fight from principle than surrender to theft. Frank escorted Madison out. Her clicking heels echoed down the hallway until the elevator doors closed with finality. Eleanor turned to me. Can you truly restore full system functionality by this evening? Yes. The shutdown was protective, not destructive. All data remains intact. Operations can resume immediately. What are your terms? I'd prepared for this moment. Licensing agreement granting Meridian perpetual usage rights while maintaining my patent ownership. Consulting contract allowing system improvements and expansion. Reinstatement as senior logistics coordinator with appropriate compensation adjustment. Robert Chen nodded approvingly. Reasonable terms considering the circumstances. Patricia Collins asked, what prevents future theft of your innovations? Enhanced security protocols, documented intellectual property protections, and legal framework preventing unauthorized access or replication. The board voted unanimously to accept my terms. Within 2 hours, I was back in my office, fingers flying across familiar keyboards as Mop hummed back to life. David Rodriguez appeared in my doorway, grinning widely. The warehouse team wants to throw a party. We've been paralyzed for 24 hours. Later, I replied, monitoring supplier interfaces as they reconnected. Right now, let's save the Anderson contract. Jake helped coordinate the technical restoration. Madison's people tried everything, he reported. Password attacks, encryption, bypassing even attempted database deletion. The security protocols held perfectly. By 6 p.m., normal operations had resumed. Shipping schedules updated automatically, supplier relationships rekindled delayed orders, processed with expedited delivery arrangements. The Morrison Steel contract was salvaged through personal calls to contacts who trusted my word over corporate chaos. Eleanor called with updates from the legal front. FBI is investigating Madison's corporate espionage. Titan Logistics faces federal charges for industrial theft conspiracy. How serious are the charges? I asked. Wire fraud, computer fraud, conspiracy to steal trade secrets. Madison could face significant prison time. Carmen joined us for dinner at the downtown steakhouse where I'd celebrated my original hiring 5 years ago. Justice moves slowly but sometimes arrives completely, she observed. The following weeks brought complete vindication. Madison was arrested at her apartment charged with conspiracy to commit trade secret theft. Titan Logistics faced massive civil lawsuits as the investigation revealed similar schemes targeting 12 competitors over 3 years. Thomas returned from Asia to find the crisis resolved, but his company fundamentally changed. His embarrassment was complete as he absorbed the scope of Madison's deception. I trusted the wrong person, he admitted during our private meeting. Your work saved this company twice, once through innovation, once through integrity. Media coverage focused on corporate espionage dangers and intellectual property protection. Manufacturing Weekly featured my story as cautionary tale about insider threats to American business innovation. 3 months later, Madison pled guilty to avoid trial. 18 months, federal prison, $200,000 restitution lifetime ban from corporate executive positions. Titan Logistics filed bankruptcy, unable to survive federal investigation and civil lawsuit damages. My patent licensing generated substantial personal income while maintaining Meridian's competitive advantages. The company prospered, clients returned, new contracts materialized based on our proven operational excellence. Eleanor nominated me for Manufacturing Excellence Award, recognizing innovation in logistics optimization. The ceremony celebrated not just technical achievement, but the courage to fight corporate theft. Jake received promotion to IT director, our friendship deepened by shared adversity. Carmen returned as operations consultant, her experience invaluable in preventing future security breaches. But the greatest satisfaction came from daily operations. MOP continued evolving, incorporating new algorithms and supplier relationships. My work belonged to me legally and practically protected by law and respected by leadership that understood innovation's true value. Madison's scheme had failed completely. Her theft exposed her career, destroyed by arrogance and illegal ambition. Justice delayed by corporate politics had ultimately proven thorough and decisive. 6 months after Madison's downfall, I stood in my new corner office, watching sunrise illuminate Columbus skyline. The nameplate read, Aaron Connor, Director of Strategic Operations. My journey from terminated employee to executive leadership proved that integrity ultimately triumphs over sophisticated deception. The Meridian Optimization Protocol had expanded across 4 divisions, generating efficiency improvements that exceeded even my optimistic projections. Company profits increased 68%, positioning us as a regional industry leader. My patent licensing agreements provided substantial personal income while maintaining Meridian's competitive advantages. Thomas knocked on my door carrying coffee and newspapers, featuring our latest success story. Anderson Manufacturing just renewed their contract for 3 additional years, he announced. They specifically requested you as primary liaison. Trust takes years to build, I replied, accepting the coffee gratefully. Madison nearly destroyed relationships that required decades to develop. Speaking of Madison, Thomas placed the Columbus Dispatch on my desk. She was sentenced yesterday. The article detailed Madison's 18-month federal prison term, substantial restitution requirements, and permanent prohibition from corporate leadership roles. Federal Judge Patricia Morrison had denounced calculated corporate espionage that threatens American innovation and business integrity. Titan Logistics had closed permanently, unable to survive the federal investigation's revelations about systematic trade secret theft. 12 companies across 6 states had fallen victim to similar schemes orchestrated by Madison and her criminal network. Jake appeared in my doorway, laptop in hand. The Manufacturing Excellence Awards ceremony confirmed you as keynote speaker next month, he reported. They want you to address intellectual property protection and employee advocacy. My relationship with Jake had evolved beyond professional collaboration. His loyalty during the crisis revealed character that attracted me personally. Last weekend, we'd adopted a rescue dog named Justice, whose boundless energy filled my apartment with joy. Carmen called from her new office down the hall. 3 more companies have contacted us about licensing MOP technology. Non-competing industries, substantial licensing fees, minimal adaptation required. The licensing program had become unexpectedly lucrative. Food distribution companies, automotive suppliers, and electronics manufacturers wanted to implement optimization protocols based on my innovations. Each agreement generated income while expanding MOP's influence across American manufacturing. Eleanor stopped by for our weekly mentoring session. At 70, Thomas's sister had become my executive sponsor, guiding my transition from technical expert to strategic leader. The board approved your proposal for employee innovation protection programs, she announced. Starting next quarter, all Meridian employees can file provisional patents for work-related innovations before implementation. My experience had inspired comprehensive policy changes. New employees received intellectual property education, legal consultation services, and protection against retaliation for asserting ownership rights. Madison's scheme could never succeed in Meridian's transformed environment. David Rodriguez had been promoted to warehouse operations manager, his team loyalty during the crisis, earning recognition and advancement. His workers often stopped by my office, sharing ideas for process improvements and operational efficiencies. Your example taught us that fighting for what's right isn't just acceptable. David had told me recently, it's essential for protecting innovation and honest work. The ripple effects extended far beyond Meridian. Trade associations now offered seminars on corporate espionage prevention. Legislative proposals addressed gaps in intellectual property protection that Madison had exploited. My testimony before House Subcommittee on Manufacturing Competitiveness helped shape federal policy recommendations. Personal growth had matched professional advancement. Adversity revealed inner strength I hadn't known existed. The quiet determination to fight sophisticated theft had transformed into confident leadership that inspired others facing similar challenges. My apartment had transformed as well. The cramped space filled with technical manuals had been replaced by modern downtown condominium with proper home office. Engineering drawings still covered walls, but now they represented expansion plans and strategic innovations, rather than desperate late-night problem solving. Legal victory had provided more than financial compensation. The federal court's ruling established precedent, protecting employee intellectual property rights against corporate theft. Employment attorneys referenced my case when defending other innovators facing similar challenges. But the most meaningful satisfaction came from daily operations. MOP continued evolving, incorporating artificial intelligence elements and predictive analytics that pushed efficiency boundaries. My work remained mine, legally and practically protected by law and respected by leadership that understood innovation's true value. Thomas had fundamentally changed his management approach. No longer trusting impressive credentials over demonstrated character, he promoted from within, valued employee contributions, and built corporate culture around integrity rather than mere performance metrics. You saved more than our logistics system, he'd told me during his annual review. You saved our company's soul by proving that doing right matters more than appearing successful. Young employees often sought my guidance about protecting their innovations. I established informal mentoring network, helping colleagues navigate corporate politics while maintaining personal integrity. Their successes multiplied my impact beyond individual achievement. Carmen's wisdom had proven prophetic. Justice moves slowly but sometimes arrives completely. Madison's comprehensive defeat demonstrated that sophisticated corporate crime ultimately faces exposure and punishment when victims refuse surrender. The Manufacturing Excellence Award ceremony approached representing industry recognition for technical innovation and ethical leadership. My speech would address practical strategies for protecting intellectual property while encouraging young professionals to trust their instincts when facing corporate corruption. 1 year ago, I'd been uncertain employee struggling to understand Madison's hostility. Today, I stood as industry leader whose experience inspired policy changes protecting countless future innovators. The transformation taught profound life lessons about ownership extending beyond legal documents. True ownership meant understanding your work's value, fighting for recognition despite obstacles, and maintaining integrity when confronting sophisticated deception. Madison's scheme had failed because theft cannot replicate. Understanding, copied, data cannot substitute wisdom, and stolen systems cannot function without their creators' knowledge and commitment. My response to her ultimatum had proved prophetic. The logistics system truly wasn't hers to own, not because of patents or contracts, but because innovation belongs to those who create it through dedication, sacrifice, and relentless pursuit of excellence. Standing at my office window, watching construction crews building new manufacturing facilities, attracted by our operational excellence, I reflected on how defending principle had generated prosperity for everyone except those who chose corruption over integrity. The sunrise illuminated not just Columbus skyline, but endless possibilities for continued growth, innovation, and positive impact on American manufacturing competitiveness. Justice had indeed arrived completely. Now, I'm curious about your experiences. Have you ever faced workplace situations where someone tried to take credit for your innovations or hard work? How did you handle it, and what advice would you give to others facing similar challenges? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your experiences could help someone else navigate corporate politics with integrity. If this story resonated with you, please like this post to help others find it. Subscribe for more stories about standing up for what's right in professional settings, and share this with anyone who might benefit from learning about protecting their intellectual property and fighting workplace injustice. Thank you for joining me on this journey from corporate theft to professional triumph. Remember, your innovations belong to you, and defending them isn't just legal, right? It's moral obligation to yourself and future innovators who deserve protection from sophisticated corporate schemes. Until next time, keep fighting for what's right and never let anyone tell you that your work isn't yours to own.